I'm Joanna Wake from Raw Digital Training. We deliver digital routeways to young people who are aged 16 to 24 and not in employment or training. I'm joined on the session today by Shona, Duncan, who is Head of Skills, Employment and Education at the Tees Valley Combined Authority, and Scott Urwin, who is the Employer Engagement Manager for the North East at Baltic Apprenticeships. We were also due to be joined by Paul Robson from DWP, but unfortunately the government systems that they use wouldn't let him utilise this technology of this expo, so I will also be covering Kickstart. Hopefully this will be a very valuable session, particularly to any employers that are considering whether they could make use of either of the schemes, filled with information and a big Q&A section, so please think about all your questions and pile them up ready for that aspect. In terms of why these new incentives are available, youth unemployment is reaching a staggering height at the moment, and it's going to reach quite dangerously high levels quite soon. So in terms of the claimant count for young people who are unemployed, and when we talk about young people, we mean people who are aged 16 to 24. In the first 4 months of the pandemic, the claimant count went from 1 in 15 young people to 1 in 7 young people. And we know that young people are less likely to be claiming benefits, so this is actually disguising the true picture. The Resolution Foundation found that between June and August, the youth unemployment rate was 13.5%. This is compared to 4.5% of the general population. So as you can see, young people are much more adversely affected by the pandemic and any issues that affect the labour market as a whole. Locally in Tees Valley, there was a 60% rise in people aged 18 to 24 who were unemployed between March and June. And young people are 2.5 times more likely to be working in vulnerable sectors that have shut down or are at risk of being shut down, such as hospitality and retail. As somebody who has worked on the ground with young and unemployed people for the last 5 years, I can honestly say that people would be staggered at the quality of people that are unemployed. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the type of people that are unemployed, but in my experience, young people are hungry, determined and just desperate to earn a wage and get into employment and prove their own worth. So I think this is providing a really strong opportunity for us as a region to take action and massively benefit the skills of our young people and also our economy. Ultimately, you know, we all got to where we are now because somebody gave us a chance, somebody seen something in us, and I think we can all really remember the standout figures that we've had throughout our career, not just at the start, but people where someone just kind of seen something in us and nurtured it. And I think we've all had that at various points in our careers, and those people are very valuable to us. And really, there's an opportunity now for us to be that person to somebody else. What we're going to cover on the session is we're going to cover the local Kickstart scheme. So how as a small business with taking on less than 30 Kickstarts, you can work with the Combined Authority on that. The local apprenticeship grants, which are absolutely fantastic and supporting our growth sectors. Shona Duncan's going to cover that just now. I'm going to go on to the Kickstart scheme and really how you can make the most of that, the do's and don'ts with that. And Scott's going to cover the National Apprenticeship Grant and what you can do to induct people remotely and some great examples of local companies. So I'll head over now to Shona.
Great, thank you very much, Joanna. And it's great to hear, you know, if you like, your response in terms of understanding the concerns about youth unemployment, because it's something that Tees Valley Combined Authority has been very concerned about for some time, and it's one of the reasons why we do invest heavily in supporting apprenticeship creation, but also how we support young people through careers education and also personal development and skills development, to make sure that we can maximise the opportunities that are in the workforce, in the economy, for the young people as much as we possibly can. And then also making sure that they have the skills and the work experience that's essential for them to move into employment. Just sort of to focus in on the Kickstart opportunity, this is an opportunity that the Department of Work and Pension announced in September. And basically it's a 6 months work placement for young people aged 16 to 25. And they are looking to create placements where They pay 100% of a wage subsidy for up to 25 hours. And it is about creating a job that isn't an existing job within an organisation. So, you can't replace an existing person. You can't replace a person that's been made redundant as a result of COVID-19. But what you can do is create a new opportunity within the business to give a chance to a young person. And that is incredibly important in terms of where people are at the moment, looking for opportunities, looking to engage in work, and as Joanna says, actually getting a wage for doing so. They will be paid at minimum wage. In terms of the combined authorities role, what we've done very quickly when it was announced is commit to saying we will work with local employers to help them create as many work placements as possible, to really try and help and address the rising youth unemployment that we have within Tees Valley. So therefore, we very quickly, through the Mayor's announcements, engaged with businesses, and we've already identified over 400 placements from small businesses within Tees Valley that we have applied directly to DWP for a grant to pay for those wage subsidies. Now, the role that the combined authority is going to take is basically, if you're an organisation that can create a placement and no more than 30 placements, we will in effect take on the role of intermediary organisation. We will work with DWP to gain the funding to then pass it on to yourselves in simplest terms. So basically, go to the Tees Valley Combined Authority website, there's all the information on there, and apply through us. And basically, we will support you through the whole process. Now, the other thing that we're also very keen to do as a combined authority is make sure that this is a really good quality, valuable experience for the young person, and that they have a progression route when they finish the placement. The placement will be for 6 months. Obviously, we would love all of the placements to be kept on the existing businesses, but that is not a condition of the grant. The grant is for the 6 months only. Therefore, at the end of that 6 months, we want to make sure that that young person knows all of the options that they can then move forward into, be it education, be it training, or indeed further employment, or indeed an apprenticeship. And we will work with the young person during the time of the placement to try and help them shape their future. I think the most important thing is for the support that we're going to give to the business during that time as well. So again, if there's anything that the business needs support in terms of creating job descriptions or defining the role, or indeed supporting the young person if they have something that they raise with the employer, then we will step in and help you with that. So really, we're trying to enhance the national offer. We're also trying to look at how we can support the businesses to create more opportunities through the work placements. So basically, anything that the employers need during that time, we will be there to support them through it. We're also considering how we can maybe enhance it through a training option. But again, that's not compulsory, but it's something that we're looking at in terms of trying to use this 6 month time of the young person's development as effectively as possible. So basically, contact us. We'll make this as simple as we possibly can for you, and in effect, hopefully create as many placements as possibly can. And I'll hand back to Joanna.
Shona, in terms of the Kickstart scheme, there's things to consider as a business of whether you're ready or not, and to ensure that you can get yourselves as prepared as possible. So there's some do's and don'ts that are going to be sent out to attendees and posted online as well elsewhere. And I'm just going to cover a few of the main ones now. In terms of the mentoring, and mentoring is a really important part of Kickstart. So you've got to make sure somebody is there within the company that can support that young person, not just from the start, but also as they progress towards the end of the 6 months. This mentoring needs to be helping that young person with CVs, applications for jobs, interview preparation as well. So there's probably somebody within your business that would really relish that role because it's highly rewarding, but have that determined ahead of making your application for a Kickstart. Do innovate, really try and think outside of the box. Is there something that you've got now as a role that you could potentially do differently? I was speaking to a business recently and they have decided to effectively, as a retail environment, create a customer service role that's purely online. So it's entirely using social media so that the business can still operate, the business can still sell, but effectively it's reaching customers whilst they're in their own home and being able to transact and basically get to the point of the transaction, the conversing, the questions and everything else via social media, which is a fantastic idea. And they're going to use Kickstart just for that purpose. Do consider keeping good workers on. If somebody's going to show their worth to you and you think that they're worth keeping on, consider that. You could also consider having an evolving role. So you may want to recruit somebody for customer service or admin type of role, but you could incentivize them by saying that at the end of the 6 months, for example, you could put them onto an apprenticeship in, say, digital marketing. If this could be an option for your company, I would recommend that you include that in the advertisement for your Kickstart candidate, because this would really incentivize young people who are interested in an evolving role and a career to come forward. And do think about the hours that you're offering. So the government will cover 25 hours at minimum wage for 6 months. And you have got the option, if you want to have more hours than that, and you can pay the difference. But if you are going to use 25 hours, try to consider a flexible approach with that. So it might be during school hours. There's plenty of people there who would love to work in those hours, not least some young mums as well. In terms of don'ts, please don't be unorganised. Please don't enter this to try and get somebody and not really think about fully what the role is going to entail and how you're going to provide that mentoring and support and induct them properly. You really can't wing something like this, and it really wouldn't be fair on a young person. It would do more harm than good. So make sure that you're organised and that you know exactly what your role is and what your expectations are. Don't use for existing roles. You can't use the scheme for existing roles, and it can't be a role that's going to reduce another employee's hours or pay. It's got to be a new role. Don't take but not give. You know, this is really important, that you can share insight and support somebody, and you've got so much knowledge inside of yourself as either a business owner or a worker, as much in terms of soft skills as what you have in hard skills, and the soft skills are absolutely invaluable. Everything in terms of communication, positive attitude, asking questions when needed, using your own incentive. It's absolutely priceless what you can give within this, and it's really important that it's a two-way thing that you're taking on. And don't let the opportunity pass you by. This is really, you know, we've heard the word unprecedented so many times through the last, 6 months. But this is really unprecedented in terms of support. To have this level of support available, this is to provide a significant impact in terms of skills, our local economy, and the local business sectors as well. It's really quite straightforward to apply for this, and all of the links are going to be in an attachment afterwards. You need to send it through, and it goes through to a job centre, your local job centre, and the job coach will match you up with candidates that they think match your needs. There are people unemployed who are also graduates as well, people that have been to college. So if you have a role and you've thought potentially you may have a longer term role for someone who might be a graduate or might have a qualification from college, do consider putting that out there as well, because there are a lot of people who would really relish the opportunity to utilise their degree and then fundamentally at the end of the 6 months be able to go out there and get a job which is using their degree and earning them a higher wage as well. So think broadly, think innovatively, and be organised. I'm going to hand over to Scott now, who's going to cover the National Apprenticeship Grant and inducting apprentices remotely.
Thanks, Joanna. So I'm just going to cover off the National Apprenticeship Grant first of all. So the grant is for all companies in all sectors, and the funding available is as follows. So if you hire an apprentice who's aged 16 to 18, there's a grant available of £3,000. If you hire an apprentice who is aged between 19 to 24, there's a grant available of £2,000. And if you hire an apprentice who's aged 25 and over, there's a grant available for £1,500. So there's people of all ages who are looking for apprenticeships at the moment, especially in the digital sector, people that are looking for new careers. We're seeing a more diverse applicant base as well, with the pandemic creating so much uncertainty. At Baltic, we're having more graduates apply for our apprenticeship roles than what we've ever had before, and also more female apprentices and applicants applying for our apprenticeships. So over the last 10 weeks, we've had an increase of 15% year on year, which is amazing. The payments are made in instalments. So the first payment is made after 90 days, and the last payment can be made with 12 months of the apprentice being inducted on their apprenticeship programme. You need to hire an apprentice and for them to be enrolled on their apprenticeship by the 31st of January. And to claim the apprenticeship employer grant, you need to create an account. And you can do that via the digital apprenticeship service. We would really recommend that if you're thinking of hiring an apprentice, to do that straight away. And this is for new apprentices only, so it's not for any existing members of staff that you would be looking to upskill via an apprenticeship if they're already employed by the business. So after hearing kind of the fantastic grants that are available from the government, you might be thinking to yourself, have you got an apprenticeship opportunity? So apprenticeships are an amazing way of growing your own talent and to prevent future skills gap within your business. And also, as I've mentioned above, the caliber of candidates that are available and that are applying for apprenticeships are absolutely fantastic at the moment. So why not future-proof your business with an apprentice? I've got a company that I work with called MediaWorks. So I remember when we first started working with MediaWorks, they were a really ambitious company. They're a perfect example of how to manage an apprenticeship scheme, and they massively believe in their apprentices. They provide them with real sustainable apprenticeship opportunities. They've got a very thorough induction program, and they've got numerous mentors. And actually, there's a lady that works in HR, Jane, who the apprentices can go to and basically have a conversation with her about anything that they might not feel like speaking to their line manager about. It's fascinating to see as well. So I've worked at Baltic for nearly 10 years now, and I remember, 10 years ago, apprentices that started their career in the tech and digital sector, and they're now kind of coming back to Baltic and to my team and asking if they can have an apprentice because they're now managers, and that's just absolutely amazing to see. So apprenticeships can provide young people with sustainable apprenticeship opportunities, but also from a business perspective, they have longevity. So basically, you must determine if the role that you're thinking about at the moment for your business is right for an apprentice, and really your training provider should support you with that. Your apprentice needs to be able to kind of gain and harvest all of that knowledge and skills from mentors within the business. So if you're looking to hire a digital marketing apprentice as an example, then you need really a digital marketing expert within your business. Apprenticeships for all size businesses as well. There is a conception out there that apprenticeships are only for large organizations. So at Baltic, around 80% of our employers are brilliant, fantastic micro businesses, and apprentices are really thriving within that environment. So yes, so there's obviously the apprenticeship wage. So at Baltic, we would encourage employers just to pay more than the apprenticeship wage if possible. But obviously, from a financial perspective, it is a really good way of hiring somebody in your workforce. So we've covered the grants and also we've covered around what an apprenticeship role is. So with the pandemic, you might be thinking how you can introduce somebody or how you can introduce an apprentice into your company. So I want to mention really that over the last 3 months, we've seen a fantastic response from the digital and tech economy in the Northeast. The pandemic has definitely affected the region, but it's been great to see businesses are doing what they can to support the next generation of tech talent. We've got an example of a company called Data Traction. So they're a micro business, and they've offered an apprentice based in Hartlepool an opportunity to shine in data. So it's a new modern sector to work in. So this learner's been on program for the last 2 to 3 months and really is flourishing in the role. So the To make sure that the apprentice had a positive experience in the company, the employer developed a structured induction plan before the apprentice started. So the apprentice has daily support and contact, and the employers also made sure that the apprentice can communicate using many digital platforms. So a lot of young people these days would prefer to send a message or you know, or go on some sort of online platform rather than picking up the phone. So the employers just made sure that basically the apprentice can ask questions, can gather information, and can get support via digital platforms as well as picking up the phone, which was great to see. And they've provided them with a 10 to 12 week learning plan. So basically, this is really going to kind of upfront the apprentice's knowledge at the beginning of his particular journey. So some things that you need to make sure that you're doing as an organisation. So you need to make sure that any insurance that you have will cover your apprentice working from home. When we advertise the apprenticeship, we need to advertise it as that the apprentice will be working remotely. That way the candidates who are comfortable with this can apply, and getting the right candidate at the beginning is really, really important. You need to make sure that the apprentice has equipment and appropriate equipment, and also has Wi-Fi access. That they've got a clear induction plan. There's a support process, and also consider doing a socially distanced coffee or meet up once a week. So that's it from me. So I'll hand you back over to Joanne.
Thanks, Scott. Some really great news there, I think, for everybody to hear, not least the 400 new vacancies that have been created with the Kickstart scheme, with the Tees Valley Combined Authority acting as a gateway. So that's 400 brand new jobs happening in the Tees Valley for 16 to 24-year-olds. That's extremely positive to hear that, and that the uptake so far has been so good. Long may it continue. And 15% year-on-year increase in digital apprenticeships locally is just astronomical as well. Don't forget that the Kickstart scheme, you've got until kind of mid next year to start somebody, but you can start them also as soon as you want. It's live right now. The apprenticeship grant, that is ending January 21, so that does need to be used sooner rather than later. I think there could be an enormous impact here, and obviously a life-changing impact in terms of young people's lives for anybody that utilises either of these schemes. There's the Q&A session is going to open right now, so if anybody has got any questions for any of the panelists, please feel free to pop them in there and we will do our best to answer them. We have also got a really fantastic PDF which has got all of the information that we've covered and some more top tips and all of the links for you to be able to make an application for either Kickstart or for the local or national apprenticeship grant.
Joanna, I wonder if I could just come in for a second there. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Great. So in the discussion forum, we have put some links in terms of where people can get information on the Kickstart, and indeed also the Tees Valley Combined Authority Apprenticeship Grant that is also available in addition to the national grant. Now, where we're at the moment is we recently, as part of the response to COVID-19, did announce a new apprenticeship grant. But that is now closed, I have to say, because we've had unprecedented demand for it. And basically that new grant did create 100 new apprenticeships where we subsidise the wage by 100% for the first 6 months and 50% for the remainder of the apprenticeship. Now, clearly, wage subsidy programmes are incredibly expensive. However, they do appear to really make a difference when we're in these unprecedented situations. We are currently, as a combined authority, continuing to offer the smaller grant that's been available for some time, and again, the information is on the website. And that's where we offer up to £3,000 for apprentices aged 16 to 18 and £2,000 for those aged 19 plus, where we're creating apprenticeship opportunities in priority sectors. Now, one of the things that we are discussing within the combined authority is, so what else should we be doing in terms of supporting businesses to create apprenticeships? And I would urge anybody in the audience that could give us some insight into what would really help them create apprenticeships. please get in touch and let us know, or indeed raise the item now, because we are seriously looking at, so what next? So what are we going to do in the future in terms of promoting and creating more apprenticeships? Because we do see them as a really good route for all ages, not just young people, but as a route of getting technical, good quality education and training alongside really valuable work experience. So therefore, please feel free to get in touch with the Combined Authority and raise that with us. That would be really valuable to us.
To hear, Shona, I think the approach of the Combined Authority has been absolutely brilliant throughout this, and the attitude towards young people and skills. Fundamentally for our growth sectors, I think it's absolutely priceless in terms of the benefits are just so multifaceted, creating long-term sustainable careers, supporting the skills gap, increasing businesses' income, exporting potential, and just completely boosting our local economy altogether. So that's really great. In terms of, there's no questions come through as yet, but I would urge anybody on the session to download the PDF, which should just be a button on your right hand side somewhere where you can download the PDF, which is covering all aspects of what we've gone through here, but also a little bit more, and all of the contact details to contact the Combined Authority for the Kickstart, the National Kickstart Guidance, and the National Apprenticeship Grant as well. All of our contact details are on there as well, myself and Scott's. So if anyone has got any questions, if anybody just wants any advice, you know, with regards to what their approach is, please feel free to get in touch with any of us. I think, you know, ultimately our aim is to drastically reduce the youth unemployment rate in our area and massively increase the opportunities for young people in well-paid jobs. There's a question here come through for Scott. For companies working remotely for the foreseeable, are an option? So as an employer, what would be expected of us in regards to supporting the apprentice? So I think what she's saying there is, if it's not just a short-term working remotely, if it's working, you know, they're going to be home-based forever, which we have seen a couple of businesses that have gave up their office. But I suspect that's going to be around, you know, making sure the right support and mentoring's in place as it's.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a brilliant question, and a question actually that we're getting asked on a more regular basis now, with a lot of organisations deciding that, you know, maybe, you know, a fixed office space isn't what they need for their business. So you know, it's a brilliant question. So yeah, so kind of just going back to what I'd mentioned previously in the talk. So it's all about planning, being organised, making sure that all of the right support mechanisms are in place for the apprentice. But for me, fundamentally, it's finding the right person for you at the beginning. So someone that is going to fit into your culture, someone that you're going to be able to kind of develop a long-lasting relationship with, and they are very, very comfortable and confident with working remotely.
Yeah, I think that might be the case for some businesses, just kind of staying remotely. But, you know, as you say, as long as it's well advertised as well, because home working isn't for everybody, and not all young people have the space to be able to work. You know, they don't all have a spare office or whatever in the house. So I think as long as that's clear, you're going to then attract applicants from people that are totally comfortable with home working and are able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing to add there is that training providers such as Baltic are being very proactive in terms of making sure that there is increased mentoring through a training provider alongside the online training availability. So we are seeing a huge move by training providers to develop really good solutions to training and mentoring for apprenticeships. So yeah, I think it is about, is it appropriate? Every business and career is appropriate to work from home, but I think what I would urge businesses to do is to engage with training providers such as Baltic and others, and also with ourselves, to have a discussion about, you know, what the options are and whether there's anything we can do to support. And because unless we know what businesses are struggling with, sometimes it's hard to know what solutions we can put in place. But if we can have that conversation, I think that would be incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it's a great point. Shona, actually, Baltic have delivered their apprenticeships remotely in our smart classroom for 5 or 6 years. So because we've done it kind of for that length of period, not all apprenticeship providers do that, and obviously for a lot of sectors there's still the kind of 1 day a week going to college. So it's a fantastic thing to point out. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think there's been a massive digital transformation in absolutely every sector with regards to working, homework, and I think this literally would have took a decade to do otherwise. So, and how people and individuals of all ages and technical backgrounds have adapted has just been astronomical. And I think a big bravo to absolutely everybody who has completely transformed the country's homework. And so, if anything positive was to come from the pandemic, I think that is definitely it. Are there any more questions before we end the session? Oh, Rob Linus has got a question here. We've had good experiences with apprentices, even as an SME, and we are about to appoint a new apprentice in the next few weeks. Is there any support to assist with the wider cost of employment, for example, IT, software, etc.? Rob, the local grant, which Shona has mentioned, and when you download the PDF, you will get that. There is the national grant that Scott spoke about, which is £3,000 for certain ages and £2,000 for others. And then there's a local grant as well. So depending on what sector you're in, Rob, if you're in one of the priority sectors for Tees Valley, if you are based in the Tees Valley, then you will be able to apply to access the other grant. So what I would urge you to do is to head on to the Tees Valley website to make that application, because it's really, really important with any applications like this for grants that you make the application way ahead of starting an apprentice. Here we are. And engineering based in Redcarpet, that would be eligible, Shona, yeah?
Absolutely, it would be clearly engineering, manufacturing, all those really technical skills are really important to us in Tees Valley. So yes, log on to the website, go through the business support link that we've provided and get the information. If there's anything that's unclear, then there's an email inquiry link in there called Project Team. Go in there and pose your question, and in effect, it will come through to the Employment Skills team, and we will endeavour to address any of these things. I mean, as far as the grant from us is concerned, that funding is to the business, and we don't stipulate what it can be used for. So therefore, it's entirely up to you how you utilise that grant. So if you wanted to use it for covering IT and software, etc., then that can be done. I mean, clearly, it's an incentive to the business, but we clearly want it to support the apprenticeship at the end of the day. But if there's anything else in terms of, you think, what's the key thing that is really stopping businesses from creating those apprenticeships, let us know, because again, we're trying to review this grant on an ongoing basis and try and make it much more adaptable and appropriate for business needs. And if that needs to change, then we'll consider that.
Rob, just to say as well, with regards to the National Apprenticeship Grant, you must, after this session has ended for everybody, if you refresh the screen, you're going to be able to see the PDF download. Towards the bottom, Scott's section, not towards the top actually of Scott's section on that PDF, you'll see what you need to do to apply for the National Apprenticeship Grant. You need to create an account on the Apprenticeship Service and make sure you've got a Government Gateway account. I would urge you to make that application in the next few days at the latest, because that's what's going to ensure you get the National Apprenticeship Grant as well. So all told, if you're hiring somebody who is between the age of 16 to 18 in a priority sector in Tees Valley, you're looking at £5,000 or £6,000 worth of grant there. So that should significantly be able to help with any of those extra costs. For 19 plus, I think it would total just a little bit less than that, about £4,000. Sally Gardner's asked, if the company is based in Tees Valley, the Growth Hub will advise on the grants. Sally said, not asked. So yeah, if they're based in Tees Valley, the Growth Hub will advise on the different grants that are available, both local and national, that will be as well, and also help to support in any other way. All of the contact details for the project team at Tees Valley are also on the downloadable PDF. My experience, everyone else's seems to be phenomenal of the team. So yeah, pick up the phone or send an email over.
Yeah.
once the session ends, if you can refresh your screen, the PDF will be there. Please read it, please use it. Even if you're thinking about hiring someone in the future, it's going to be a great thing to refer back to as well. I'd really like to thank Shona for joining me, and also Scott, and also for Paul from DWP for the information that he sent over, you know, for the fact that computer did say definitely no to him being able to take part in it. So thank you very much, everybody who's took part in the session. And like I say, any other questions that you have for any of us, all of our contact details are on there. We're only too happy to help. So let's make an impact and change some lives and get our economy booming. Thank you.